You've you're like the perfect mentor for this conversation when we're talking about sales
Aw.
ultimately. Well, like you know, like you've got this awesome track record and you know, everybody that's hopping on, we're gonna give it a moment for anybody else that wants to join this conversation to join. And also Tori's restarting her computer because we're having some technical difficulties. But I think from my perspective, this is one of the things that I think as a non-sales forward, it's a founder feels the least comfortable. You know, it's like, and I call it pretending to do business. I think oftentimes when people are like just founders are thinking about businesses, it's like, oh, the logo, let me build that, like the website, blah, blah. But it's all these things that don't actually move the needle. And I think that at the end of the day, this is probably like out of the stack of all the conversations, like, yes, you need to have a good product, but on some level, like, what does having a good product even matter if nobody's, you know, if nobody's actually, you know, if you don't have some sort of income coming from it? Because then it's like, on some level, it's just like a fun hobby. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But let's be very clear about what we're doing. Like, is this a hobby or is this a job or is this a profession? Because I think those are two very different things. And okay, perfect. The live is working. I'm thrilled. I'll cut out this cross chatter and at least me commenting on who's live. I will, if anybody's that's live, tell us, feel free to go into the chat and tell us like if you're starting a company, if you how sales have been or where you're joining from. I'd love to just understand who we're speaking to a little bit more. So McKenna, like how like have you seen people start businesses and not really focus on sales? Like, I mean, is this like kind of like classic uncomfortable, or is this like, you know, or can you just not relate and you're like, I'm sales forward, like this, I don't know what it is to start a business without thinking about sales.
Oh no, I think it's inevitably part of starting a business. Unless you have a really crazy story where you somehow go viral or like something crazy happens. I think for the most part, like that's a huge part of starting your business, right? You maybe have an idea or you've been like sort of poking around, selling a little bit here and there, offering a little bit here and there, and now it's like, okay, you're taking it seriously and building a business. And yeah, sales is a huge part of that. And I think that that's also it can be really uncomfortable, especially if that's not something that you've done before. A lot of people that I see, they start their business because they love what they offer, they love their product, their service, whatever. They're really excellent at it, but then they kind of are like, oh, now I have to be like everything else in the business too, including a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a very common place to be, honestly.
I find most founders, I think there's two things that, like, once the company gets operational, it's like your fundraising or sales, whatever you want to call it, like a money source and human resources. It's like you get so far away from actually like doing what you're actually doing. And Tori, so I mean, I think this is really like the perfect combo because it's like I think a lot of people can have found themselves in like in your place where you're like, oh, I'm starting a business and I think I have a great idea. And I think there's something here, but I need to get sales. And I'd say I'm kind of going through some of that stuff as well. I want to hold off on like your true challenge, Tori. So hold off on that. And but generally, like, have you? I get. Let me ask you this, Tori. Have you when you've been? Is this your first company that you've started? I forgot.
Yeah, company that I started, and it sounds like I'm in the right spot with both of you because I'm the person that's like, this product's amazing. I'm really good at it. The service is ready to rock and roll. Why are there not clients falling from the sky at this point? I thought that's how this worked when you're really
Right,
good at
right.
something.
Yeah, yeah. Build it and they will come is a quick. I feel like build it and they will come is a quick path to being out of business at the end of the day, right? But it's like
Yeah.
it'd be nice if it was easier. It would be really nice. So let's hop into this. So I'm thrilled to have you both join me. So I have McKenna Finger Zannini, like, is the founder and CEO of the boutique COO, a brick by brick collective business support agency is redefining what it means to get support as a smaller business owner. So you're perfect to speak on this. Tori Smith is the founder of the Welcome Standard, the talent concierge service that partners with companies to elevate recruitment and retention. From working in college football to the highest level now and guiding high-stakes professional relocations, she's built a reputation on helping recruiting teams win top talent and ensure they feel at home in their new community. So let me, just to kind of give people a little bit more kind of insight into kind of your businesses and both of your expertise. Tori, in one sentence, what would you say the welcome standard is?
I would say that we are a concierge to hiring teams that are trying to bring top talent to the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area.
Okay.
So, yeah, we help. We're not recruiting. We're not a headhunting agency. That's kind of why we just went through this big rebrand. My company used to be called Recruitfully, and so I put the word recruit in my name, and what a silly idea that was. Starting with the quick startup method, you're throwing everything against the wall and see what sticks, and I learned quickly that was not resonating with anyone. So, yeah.
If I may interject, initially Idea Citizen, an early naming convention was the Fresh Ideas podcast, and my friend was like, "So like Amazon?" I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, no." I'm like, let's. And then there's another one that was like Discussy, and I was like, no one knows how to spell that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So to your point, I think branding and the naming convention is a really important starting point. Makena, so would you, one sentence as well for boutique COO, like what would you say you guys do really well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of us as business support services for small and medium-sized businesses. So basically fractional support, whether that's on a very high level, like advisory strategic support, or a very tactical support across operations, marketing, and finance roles within small and medium-sized companies.
And Makena, what is the number one sales mistake you're seeing that founders make?
I think a couple things. One that I see is pricing just being wrong. I think pricing has to be fundamentally like on market pricing, or also offerings, packaging. Sometimes people package things in a way that just isn't super intuitive or flexible, or just not meeting the needs of their market, right? And so like to me it's like, well, you don't want to put sales and marketing efforts on like a ship with a leak in it, right? Like you need to kind of like get your offer and your pricing really set before you really put the effort in. I would say that's one thing. The second thing I would say is it's really easy to get disappointed in the sales process. I think it feels like an uphill battle, especially at the beginning. But for a lot of people right now, especially how there's so much uncertainty in small businesses, like there's a lot going on for small business right now. It can feel really discouraging. And so I think people getting almost like too emotionally close to the sales process is something I also see. And instead, I really like to think of the sales process as like math. Like how many people do I need at the top of my funnel? What percent of them do I get on a call? And then after that, how many people are actually qualified, right? And you can work your way through and say, okay, if I need 5 new clients, like let's just do the math on how many people I need to talk to and how many people I need to find to be able to get those clients through the door.
My heart goes out to any new founder or any person in the founding process, because this is brought up on my last conversation, where at some point you're taken away from your expertise and really like kind of tagged with like, maybe you were a coder, maybe you were a recruiter, maybe you were a marketer, but now you also need to be a salesperson. And that is like, it's just this muscle to flex, and it's uncomfortable until it becomes uncomfortable. So
to McKenna's point, it's oftentimes mental warfare, honestly. Like it's easy to take it super personally because you've poured your heart and soul into this offering. And I love that idea of math, McKenna.
Yeah, make it pretty straightforward. Tori, you cut out for me, so I'm not. Did Tori cut out for you as well? Okay, hopefully she'll be back. So, well, I was going to actually ask Tori to pitch us on exactly what was going on with her business. So we'll hold off on that for one second. But like, here, let me go just readjust. So like, when you're talking about top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, like, are you finding, oh, hey, Tori, it looks like you're back. Perfect. So Tori, can you walk us through at least like your general challenge right now that you're experiencing?
Yeah, I would boil it down into one sentence is really getting the offering in front of the decision maker is a really top of mind problem for me right now. I can get in front of people and I'm happy to share my message all day long. It's getting in front of the decision maker, the person that ultimately says yes.
Yeah, totally. I'm curious to hear, like, how are you finding these people that you're talking to? Where are they coming from? What kinds of companies? Like, just give me a little bit more context about the folks that you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ideal industry for me, especially for like a pioneer market, is the healthcare industry. Everybody is hiring in healthcare always. Everybody wants the best of the best in healthcare always. So it's a really consistent hiring need that would benefit from my service. So I am going into different job postings, finding out who's hiring, who the contacts for these hiring teams. You know, a lot of times it's outsourced to third parties, you know, who's hiring for who, um, and the different agencies or internal people involved. Because the recruiting gets kind of, you know, recruiting gets all over the place. So yeah, that's kind of that's the pioneer market is like healthcare, physician recruiters, physician managers, stuff like that.
And how did you get into it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. This is my second go of this. Um, I used to work at Ohio State, and I was the on-campus recruiter for the football team. It was such a cool job. I glad I did it while I was young because it was also crazy hours. Um, but I would have probably like 500 visits a year, and it's different.
It cut out for me. Yeah, to cut out
Here,
for you.
oh, am I back? Why is
Yes.
this happening? Okay.
You're back now.
So yeah, it started in football of all places, and then my husband went through his medical residency, and as we were checking out other places to live, they had these community advocate groups, like these boutique community advocate groups, and I was like, this is exactly what I used to do. This is what I love to do for St. Pete for free for all my friends and family when they're visiting anyway. So that's
Like, oh, I can get paid.
wait, people make money doing this? This is crazy.
That's so funny. The reason I ask that is I I wonder if there's like a value perception thing. I was actually just reading about a metric like time to value, which I think is a really interesting metric. So like how long it takes someone to assign value to the services that you are offering or product, you know, in that case. I thought that was really interesting to make it into a metric. And so, you know, when I'm thinking about your business and I was thinking in advance of this call, like, you know, how would I approach this if it was my business? And I think in a big way, people could see your business and your services as discretionary, right? Like they
Totally.
need the talent through the door. They don't necessarily need to make it like a super high touch experience. They probably should, right? And you, I'm sure, can talk about all the reasons why they should, but they don't need to. And so I'm wondering if there's a way that you can package what you offer in um, in a way that demonstrates the impact. Like from the times that you've done this, how has it impacted retention? Like, are you
Right.
retaining? How is it impacting employee productivity? Right? Like, I don't know. Have you ever thought about or attempted to quantify any of that?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I love nerding out in Excel and stuff. Like, I love stats and all of that. So that is an interesting. So no, the initial response is no, I haven't done that. And that would be
Like a
something
case study. I could totally see a case
yeah,
study. I've actually run like let's call it informal case studies, even just like on LinkedIn. So, I mean, like I could see something to your point, like, your onboarding process when you started your new company, or if you like, you don't have to get super granular, but like I think that like once you kind of get some information, you can deduce kind of value from that. And like this, 50 or 75% of people feel like they are not onboarded properly at their organization, like however you want to word it and everything. But then ultimately, I actually personally would actually go to I anticipate, and thank goodness for AI and some of the at least ability to search for really good data. Of course, if you suss it out, but I anticipate there's probably some companies that have actually done some of this research. Like, let's call it, I don't know. I'm sure there's like some sort of data resources from human resources that like actually referred to exactly McKenna's question around 55% of people something. You know,
Yeah.
this increases retention by like asking a very specific and deliberate question around like the value proposition of a service like this. And I especially anticipate, are you this type of service, Tori, would this go for more high ticket, like, or higher income earners, or is it for just generally kind of general staff?
Yeah, this would be for those positions that companies are investing a lot of money in. It's almost like an insurance policy on that big investment into an employee. And to your point, like there's this company, Bamboo HR. They do a bunch of onboarding software, and they put out a lot of data that's pretty helpful for me. They say you have 44 days for to make an impact on your new employee, before they decide how long they're going to stay with your company. So within 44 days, in their mind, they've already decided if this is going to be a long-term stay, a short-term stay. They make up that decision within a month and a half. So that first month and a half is really what I built the second part of my service, that white glove concierge. You've moved here, let's get plugged in. Built it around, okay, 45, 44 days, let's double that time frame and make it the most seamless a relocation can be, to kind of ensure that they have the positivity around those 44 days where things can be really hectic. I mean, moving's really hard. So,
Yeah.
totally.
Can I also ask, like, who's normally doing this? Like, or is it happening at all?
Yeah, there's some companies, if they're large enough, have like an internal person doing this. Sometimes you can make agreements with realtors. That is pretty common in large healthcare systems. They'll say, hey, we've got a realtor friend, call them, they'll show you around, in hopes that if you do move here, you use them as your realtor. I would say that's my biggest competitor of sorts, even though I partner with realtors. We make a really nice team. But yeah, realtors, and then sometimes it's kind of this like ad hoc role that you kind of throw to an assistant or an intern, like, hey, can you get dinner reservations for these people? Or like, can somebody get them a flight? That's just kind of this piecemealed role.
Yeah. I really think that there's something here around like the value, just because hiring is expensive, and especially if you're then talking about relocation and train, like this just sounds like the employers are spending a lot of money to me. Like that's what I'm hearing you say. And I think that it makes sense for them if, say if they were to lose that person and have to re-recruit and relocate someone else, how much does that cost them? I don't know, probably at least $10,000, right? And so like if they're paying you a fraction of that to save themselves that cost, to me as an employer, I'm like, oh, I'm more interested, right? And that's, I think, actually the argument of a lot of like benefits offerings and so on. Like I don't want to be overly cynical, but I think a lot of employers, when you see like Google or Facebook offering like fertility benefits or offering on-site dining, right? They're not really doing it because they, out of the goodness of their heart, they're doing it.
They're not.
No, crazy, right? They're doing it to attract and retain talent, right? And so I think it's like this is the same positioning to me. It's very discretionary, but it can have a lot of impact longer term. And I think that is the type of stuff too, that when you're talking about getting in front of a higher level person in the company, I think that's the type of stuff that is going to better your chances for that. Is like having something concrete like that to fish with, if you will.
Yeah, and to throw some numbers around hiring, when you made me think of it with $10,000, I worked for a trucking company, and every truck driver that we hired, it cost us around $12,000, and we were hiring 50 of them a week. Oh, so yeah, the cost of hiring, and then our retention rate was like 12% or something over 3 months. It was absurd. So that cost is just enormous. But then you talk about the cost of a physician. Normally hiring a non-specialized physician fresh out of residency, you're looking at $300,000 in hiring costs to attract, move, the bonuses, the, different things with their
Totally.
loans and paying all that down. So yeah, hiring is an expensive, quantifiable game, 100%.
And
Plus,
firing or losing someone too, right? Like
Yeah, then it's
that
doubled. Yeah.
whole other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the productivity that you lose, that's also pretty quantifiable when you have patients that you could fill in a schedule, all of that. I love all that kind of data. It's expensive, is the spoiler alert to anybody.
let me
It's
ask you
pricey.
this, just out of curiosity. I mean, for any business, like I think I mean, McKenna, I'd love like your opinion on this, where it's like, I could see Tori. So in your business model, I feel like there's a few different ICPs, like where it's potentially like the internal recruiter. I also feel like there's some value regarding like the external recruiter actually tagging on to like their service offerings and everything, where it's like it could be like a value add. I'm kind of wondering if there's also a value to, like if, I think this comes down, especially the concierge part of it. If like, if somebody is potentially moving to your geographic area, I think you mentioned Tampa, like would the end user, would the end, like, is there an offering potentially to also like make a service for that end user where they could potentially hire you specifically, like, and I mean, not to like just to kind of associate a name with it, where you kind of end up being like this personal assistant and everything to somebody during their transitions, like, oh, you need somebody to get your kids in schools, okay, got it. You need somebody to like set up like your utilities, you got it. Like, I feel like, and I don't know if that's part of like this whole onboarding process, but it, for a certain finite period of time, I think that there's like maybe a few different offerings here where it's like, I'm was it where it's like I'm like, how do I say it? Like, you're like you're the bridge from where they are to where they're going, to make that part seamless. And I think like the offering at the end of the day is the exact same. It just really comes down to like who's actually paying for that service. I
Right.
don't like, and I don't know if that, like, I mean, the reason McKenna, I'm kind of curious about your opinion on this, because it's like, does that kind of like weaken like the argument of like the offering, or because it's like less clear, it's like, oh well, I do this, and you could hire me directly, or an internal agency could hire me, or I could be tagged on to an external agency that's actually hiring for this type of role, or having some flexibility and everything regarding like the service offerings, is that a benefit? I don't know.
I think it's not, I don't think it hurts, honestly. I think that having different ways to tag on, I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, this is a kind of a funny example, but I was just staying at a hotel, and at the hotel, there was a tour group. And it was clear that the tour group was like, I'm sure the hotel gave them some sort of discount and they stayed only at that hotel, right? There's some sort of agreement, some sort of partnership going on there. And then there was me just like staying there like a normal person staying at a hotel, right? And I think it's sort of similar. Like, you can have different ways that you're being offered, your service is being offered, but I think as long as it's clear, about like what's the pricing in different ways, and as long as the pricing doesn't drastically conflict, like if you had publicly posted pricing that's half the price than you're quoting someone else, then that's going to cause an issue. But
Yeah.
besides that, I don't think there's any problem.
Well, let me ask you, like, Victoria, what is your pricing model? And like, and not any specifics, but it's like, is it a percentage of say the hiring package, and is it like, because with recruiters, my understanding is like they acquire, let's call it like, I don't know, like up to 30% or something like that, or maybe it's 10 or 20, I don't know exactly the percentage point. And then obviously too, like depending on how long they stay, there's also part of that. I actually, if for the more premium recruiters, I actually feel like an add-on to like, or like a strategic partnership with some of them actually would make sense, because they are incentivized for these people staying to a certain point before changing it up. Tori, for some reason your sound went out.
Yep.
Hey, try again. No, I cannot hear you. Here, well, here, Tori, do you want to troubleshoot that, if anything, come back and so McKenna, maybe you can talk about this in from a more general standpoint, like for entrepreneurs creating offerings and companies. I think, I mean, and I'll speak to like myself even, sometimes like you're confused, like what exactly is my offering? And I think that like I've found that from a sales standpoint, it's like being absolutely clear about what it, like making it easy for people to understand what you're offering immediately. And I don't know, at least in Tori's case, like how to convey that message like crystal clear where it's like this is what I do.
Oh, are we back?
I think we're back. Yeah. Tori, hi.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Hi.
I'm excited for Makena to answer this question, though. I popped right back on at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's what I think. I think that having really clear, simple marketing collateral is going to be really important for your business, especially because it is discretionary. It is kind of like its own niche or its own category in a way. So I think having really clear, straightforward messaging about that, and I think again, really like value driven is the route that I would go. That is what I would think about from a messaging perspective. From a packaging perspective, or like how do you structure it, that sort of thing, I always sort of err towards having a fixed offering, whether that's like a, for you, like a candidate per candidate price per candidate package is probably, it seems like kind of the baseline for you. And then being open to having a discussion, if someone wants to structure it differently, or they want to do a bulk, prepay, or they want to do additional, like whatever, they want to negotiate with you in some sort of way. I have no problem with that, so long as it's not like posted anywhere, right? Like I think about my lawyer a long time ago said, like, you have a rule and then you can decide if you break it. Like if you have a contract and then you it can say 60 days, but you can pay them in 30 days, that's fine, right? It's, something where if you have a fixed price and then you're positioning it in that way, you can always kind of flex if someone comes to you with a slightly different proposition. And early on, you might have to, if you're looking to kind of get clients through the door, you might have to be a little bit more flexible on price or structure or things like that, just to kind of access those first couple of clients.
This is slightly non sequitur, but one of my biggest gripes, at least with with working potentially with like influencer marketing, or even trying to get rights to some like music for like say content that I've been working on with some of my clients, is that it's always like, okay, yeah, sure, we can hop on a call. It's like, no, can you just provide your rate sheet so we know what we're like? I think sometimes this like call inquiry for like pricing and everything, I understand why like people are also like, oh, trying to drive people in to actually to generate that conversation. But at the end of the day, can you just have a price sheet? Like just start with that. And I think something just like here it is. And no matter, it doesn't even, in my opinion, it doesn't even matter if they were willing to spend more or less, like whatever it was, but it's like at least have pricing structure that makes sense for you as a starting point. And to your point, Makena, like you can always negotiate it, but just have something clear that you can like send out to people, like and maybe, I mean, do you have an opinion regarding like how many offerings? Like, is it like, because I think at the end of the day, it's like if you're talking about very clear marketing collateral, very clear marketing messaging, I think one of the challenges too is like if you put like a pile of options on your like potential clients' plate and everything, you're like, oh, you can cherry pick and here's everything a la carte. And it's like, I don't actually want to make all these decisions. Please don't give me all these options.
Totally.
Is there like a rule of thumb regarding like too many, not enough?
I would say like one or two on your marketing collateral.
Okay.
One or two. I would not do more than that. There may be businesses where it makes sense to do more than that, but I would say like in this case, one or two. And it really, it's kind of like per candidate, right? Like what else? There's really not a lot of other pricing structures you could do. I could see you doing like something a little bit custom. I also am really pro adding an hourly rate on there too, like even just like a little asterisk at the bottom, like custom projects can be discussed at hourly rate of this, because what you also don't want from to your point, Jackie, is like there's this fine line between having a clear offering that people can like look at and say, okay, this aligns or it doesn't, but then also if it doesn't quite align with what someone wants and it's just a small tweak, like you don't want to lose that client either just because it doesn't 100% align with what they want. So I like to put that like open to custom projects at X hourly rate or something like that. And so then you're kind of leaving the door open if someone wants to discuss something custom with you.
So Tori, can you actually like? I'd be kind of curious. When you, because I kind of want to maybe chat a little bit about like the pitch. So it's like, let's say like you're in the room with somebody, or let's say like, via email, like, or let's say you're a recruit. You said, I think your husband is in medical, or who's in medical school, maybe he's out or whatever. I anticipate you're in environments and everything where you're with people that may be, might be your potential ideal customer profile. So like, what's your like 15-second or 30-second pitch?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot, Jackie. I love it. That's
I
good.
know, I know. It's hard, right? Though, I mean, it's like, oh,
Yeah, it's pretty situational. I do a lot of networking. Well, I feel like I'm constantly networking because I also really am a recruiter at heart and love making friends, for better or for worse. But I just try to start by asking as many questions as possible, like, oh, who handles your relocation? How many people are you hiring? I try to get something from them first so I know. If they're like, we don't hire, I'm like, well, that's awesome. Okay, well, good thing I didn't give you a 30-second pitch then about how I want to help you hire. So, how many docs are you bringing in from outside of St. Pete? Oh my gosh, a ton. We bring everybody in from Chicago. Really? How's that transition? Is that a lot of work? So that's kind of been my approach, because prior I was info dumping on people and I was writing way too much. My husband was looking over some of my emails as I was doing cold outreaches, and he was like, why did you tell me your whole life story? This is like 7 paragraphs long. I'm like, well, I just want them to know that I'm very nice and personable. And he was like, I stopped reading. Oh, okay. Thank you for your honest feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to get a little information about what's going on, or from a job posting that they have listed. That gives me a nice entryway for reaching out to people I don't know as well, if they are listing some of those things you're talking about, Makena, where the like what we can do for you page is like 15 things long. I know they're really incentivized to be hiring right now. So I will send an email with I've been linking my Calendly into my emails. Like, is this interesting to you at all? And if so, like, let's talk about it.
Totally. I think like literally like a few sentences in cold outreach, a few sentences. Also, I think anything that's like custom to them, again, really short, like maybe start in areas like, I don't know, medical systems that you have a lot of experience in versus other ones you're like newer to, or you haven't worked in before, right? Like something that makes it feel personable, but like in like a 4-word way, which I realize is a really hard line to walk. But people, I mean, think about like how long you look at something on Instagram. I mean, the attention span that all of us have is just like seconds at this point. So yeah, I think for cold outreach, going really short and really high volume is the way to go. I really like tools like Instantly. I don't know if you've ever used Instantly before.
I'm writing this down too.
It's pretty affordable. Because the tricky part with cold outreach now at the volume you need to do it at to get, results is you can end up getting flagged as spam, and then you lose your email domain and you have to go through it. Anyway, it's not a place you want to be.
Subdomain that. That's also a reason. So I don't know if you know this. So, I mean, my brother helped me set this up because he's kind of a little more on the technical part of it. But for Idea Citizen, I added live in front of it for any of my email outreach exactly because of that. To at least like, so have it from like the company, but have it also so like I can, was it like, I forgot what it was, like sandbox, or I forgot what the terminology is, but like my actual domain. So yeah, I want to tell Tori, like and so what does Instantly exactly do?
So it basically does similar to that. It basically sets up like alternative domains that are similar to your domain but not the same, and then they route those domains to your domain. So basically, and they also do this like warm-up process is what they call it. So they basically like send emails back and forth between their own domains and open them up. So you're sort of like telling the email providers that it's legit, but it's really just you like emailing back and forth. Anyway, they manage, in short, they manage like the spam reportability effectively of your cold outreach. And so what I will oftentimes do is like use Apollo or a similar tool and filter for leads that you like. Buy those leads, they're pretty cheap to do. And then from there, use instantly. And I've gotten like a good amount of business from it. And same, I've seen other people do it too, versus you having to personally type out like every single cold email. And it just gets you the volume you need. I mean, cold email response rates, it's like 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000, something like that. So just thinking about, okay, that's just to get a response, let alone get them on the phone, convert them, have them pay, all the things, right? And so just at the volume that you need to do it, in my business, we're sending like thousands of cold emails a day.
Wow.
Through these tools.
I'll circle back with you, Tori, but like I also just added a tool actually onto one of my client websites where literally like if people agree to it, but it's like if people go to your website, it will share with you who's visiting your website as well. And I have no understanding that this is particularly, I don't think this is like against any sort of like internet rules, but I think that that's also something to consider. Like anyone that's like potentially going on your website is a possible lead, and to hop into and to funnel them into instantly. And if I may, when I was hearing you also talk about your business, I mean, let me know what this is my pitch for you. Can I throw this out there?
Yeah.
But so you're like I'm a bridge for organizations relocating team members. I increase retention and reduce turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like there's still a shorter version of that though.
No, I like that. I think you could also put in a few words that talk about how you have the experience, like some credibility. Like I've helped X amount of people relocate or something, so they know you're not just like someone who decided to do this like out of the blue. I think it adds credibility.
Yeah.
I mentioned this also on the last live, but I think that there's also if your ICP is on LinkedIn, like I mean, hey, we're here doing a LinkedIn live. Anybody can do their own LinkedIn live. You can do webinars regularly. You can email gate them. You can not email gate them. You can promote them on Instagram. You can promote them on other platforms. Like there's all these different things that are available to you. The thing that's interesting to me, Tori, about like your business model too, is that the exact people that you're looking to target and reach are regularly on LinkedIn from like a hiring standpoint. Like I mean, oftentimes it's potentially like looking to hire, but I think LinkedIn is a great place to become more visible and highlight, Tori, like your expertise, and like Makena for you too. It's like, I mean, you've written up in Forbes and everything, so you're, you also kind of doing something a little bit differently. But I'm a huge personal advocate of like this was it founder-led marketing, and specifically on LinkedIn, because it's like aside from the time investment that goes into it, I think it's a wonderful platform, and you can find your people, and you can share your expertise and your knowledge and still kind of make it interesting as opposed to like like spammy or boring, but like show that like you're highlight what and have an opinion about whatever it is, and interject a little bit of like your value. So I'm a big proponent for that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think especially because you have, again, I like keep coming back to this, but because you have the experience. Oh, did we lose her?
We did. I feel like she'll listen to this a little bit.
Somehow just disappeared from my screen.
No, I feel bad for Tori. It's like, it keeps coming in and out. I don't know what's going on. And so, Makena, when you're finding like just generally like founders in the early stages, like, so I like what you're saying, kind of clear up like your offerings, make them very specific. 1 or 2, I love that, because it's like, okay, that's so much more digestible than like, here's 5. It's like nobody, like I'm not going out to eat. Like we're having a very different conversation. But I really like you mentioned instantly and Apollo. Like I've written actually all of these things down. What other tools are you liking from like a startup, like what is your sales funnel like, even like look like, what is like your ecosystem? And I mean, to add to that as well, like you're running this accelerator right now that like, I mean, that on some level is like a lead funnel as well, because it's like people are like, hey, I'd like to be a part of this. This looks interesting. It builds awareness and credibility. So what other things are you guys like doing, or for yourself, or whether you're, for your clients as well, in terms of um, creating like lead funnels and closing sales, of course.
Yeah, totally. First thing I just will say until the cows come home is a really, really good CRM. We use HubSpot. It is more expensive. For an organization of our size, it makes a little more sense, but I think there's a lot of really good ones out there. Dubsado is really good. If you have more of a creative business, Honeybook is really good. Um, I think you need a CRM that can handle automations and follow-ups. Today, I see this in my business, in my client's business, and the stats more broadly show it. It takes like 7, 8, 9, 10 follow-ups with clients to get them to sign. And I think especially now where a lot of small businesses are really sort of being even more discretionary about their spending and just really careful about where they're spending money, they um, I just need to be pushed, I think, a little bit and reminded and nurtured over a longer period of time. So CRM, like if you don't have a CRM, anyone listening, please get a good CRM. And some of the ones I mentioned are pretty affordable per month. And then, I really like Instantly for cold outreach. I think, we use Google Suite and Calendly for scheduling. And otherwise, like we're pretty simple. We just use like a lot of Google Suite stuff. We do all our proposals in the Google Suite. So nothing like super fancy, but for our clients, really right now, we're looking at how to basically do more with less. We see across our clients just having a harder time, really in a lot of industries. That's not true for everyone, but
Right.
a lot of people are looking at, okay, how can I get more from my team? How can I get more from my systems? How can I get more out of my sales funnel, right? And so sales wise, really looking also at qualifying leads. That's something that we've really, really revamped this year in my own business. And I've been helping clients do the same because early on, you kind of take whatever clients you can get, right? And you're just happy to have business. And then over time, I started to, have pattern recognition. Okay, this is the type of client that works well. This type of thing, if they're saying that early on, that's typically a flag that maybe they're not a good fit for us longer term. And so we've really started to qualify leads a lot more. But that's
How
also
are you doing? I mean, I guess I have two follow-ups. So it's like, how are you
yeah,
qualifying your leads and everything? Because I think that's like an incredibly important thing.
yeah.
But then also, like you mentioned around like the amount of touch points and everything and the nurturing. When you say like, what does nurturing actually look like? Because it's like, is it just sending 7 emails? You know what I mean? It's like, does that exactly mean?
Yeah, for me, yes, there's definitely emails and text follow-ups on the nurturing side of things, but we do a lot of phone calls. I think in this like highly digital world, there's something that's really different about picking up the phone and
Yeah.
talking to someone live, and a lot of times, we've had cases where maybe they needed something, something changed and we needed to adjust the scope. And maybe if we had just been pinging them in their email inbox, which I'm sure is hundreds of emails like we all have.
Yeah. Or if it's only just, if it goes straight into spam, like, it's like there's that part too.
Totally, totally. And I think similarly, talk about qualifying leads, like getting on the phone with someone, especially typically by the time someone signs with us, we've spoken to them on the phone more than once, either a video or on a phone call.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get a good feel for someone that way. Like, okay, are they someone who feels like a good fit for me? Are they already, we have, gotten the phone with people and been like, whoa, okay, like they're like just dumping on us from like second 5, and you're like, okay, maybe this is not going to be a good fit for us, right? And so I
Yeah.
think it's a good way to like vibe check as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it also, I think, makes you stand out because a lot of people are not doing phone follow-ups today.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. I also think that there's something to be said for immediacy. Like, let's say you do happen to get a lead. At least when I've worked in I used to work at a SEO agency and was in the medical marketing space. The moment a lead came in, like it was like whatever it was like drop, it's like call them, because from my perspective, or at least like the logic that we operated under was they're in market right now. Like they're in this mode where they want this service at this moment. So before, let's say, and there was also B2B space as well. So before they potentially had the opportunity of even remotely starting a conversation with somebody else, we're like, nope, we're like, I want to make myself known. We are interested. Let's get something on the books. Let's, let me get you on the calendar with like the appropriate salesperson, but like, let's do this now. And I think that there's also an importance in immediacy. I don't think it's let's say you get a lead on a Monday, following, sending them a message, if anything, the following Monday, I think, in my opinion, is unacceptable.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Maybe I'm neurotic about this though.
No, I totally agree. I think that realistically, when people shop now, like I think what you're saying is right because of how people shop, right? How do you shop for something? You're like, okay, I need a new dentist. I'm just making something up. Okay, what do? You Google dentist in my city, right? And then you find 2 or 3 options. You reach out to them. And who are you going to go with? Like probably just the person who gets back to you first, right? And so I think
yeah, exactly that.
If you are not responding quickly, or like I have had this discussion with clients who are like, oh, well, my books aren't open for this yet. And I understand the desire to create some sort of like exclusivity or the sort of thing, right? Which does work in certain businesses.
Yeah.
But I think oftentimes you just lose the business because you know what they're going to do? They're just going to go to your competitor unless you like have a monopoly or something. Like there's a quick store, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because normally in most instances, like if you have a business that is actually monetizable, you have like there's other people that are going to be in your space as well. Tori, can you move your camera so it's in landscape? Let's see if that works. Here, hop off and come back in with it on. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, the phone looks like it's going to work better though, so perfect. So like I think different businesses, of course, in the B2B space have different sales funnels. Some are quicker, some are shorter and everything. What would you say, like for like at least like for people that are starting out, what at what point do you know at what point do you know that like you have an expensive hobby or if you actually have a business? Like is there a moment, or is there like what, like are there any cues or anything that you like somebody can be picking up on that like they're like, oh, there's actually something really legitimate and long term here?
Yeah. It's such a tricky question because it also gets into like people's emotions and their desire for their business to be a business, right? It's so tricky. Practically speaking, my view is if you have a few clients who, even 2, even a couple, where there's been a meaningful impact and they would be like willing to hire you again, right? Like if there's, to me, that's like a product market fit thing is basically what I'm describing, right? Like, and I think if you haven't really sold anything or you've sold very sporadically, maybe those clients aren't staying with you. Maybe those clients felt like it wasn't worth the money. Maybe you gave them it discounted or completely free, right? Like to me, those are things where you're still in the product market testing phase. And if there's not product market fit, it also can just be a hobby. Like if you could just, you can have something that's like just breaking even, doesn't have to be making you money. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I think product market fit is the biggest thing where I see people get really stuck early on because a lot of times people get so excited, right? You're like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm so excited. I like love doing this. I have this vision for what it's going to be. And like, you're like, yes, okay, I'm going to do and then they do their branding and they do their social media. And they're like ready to rumble, right?
None
and
of
then,
that is being in business,
None of that's being in business. And I think then they start getting feedback on their offering, right? And they start being told, oh, it's too expensive. I want it to be structured this way. And that is such a tricky place to be, because you need to be willing to hold firm on what you're offering and the value, but not be like so stubborn that you're not taking the market feedback, right? And that is just an art, a trial and error that like truly I think you just have to be trying and failing and see, and like kind of trying to see what works. But ultimately, like if people are not buying what you're offering at a price that it needs to be purchased at to be viable, then I think it's yeah, I think it's really just a hobby in that case.
Let me ask you, I mean, Tori, what do you, like, is it completely off the table? Because I think like you do have a really great and very valuable offering where you do the recruiting part as well as the bridge part. Like, and the only reason I say that is because I think like, because I forget the words that you used, like this is a supplemental, whatever the terminology was. Discretionary, yes. Where this part of the bridge is discretionary, but like if they need to get headcount in, like that part is not necessarily discretionary. So is that something that's interesting, or you're like you don't want to like touch that? Because I have no idea, because I feel like it's for me at least at the initial stage, maybe that is the bridge to building out that other part while you make these connections, like, hey, I do this and this, it's all part of it. Where's your head?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I do have a lot of my network is healthcare people. So a lot of people have reached out to me to help them find, hey Tori, can you help me find a job? I'm like, well, I'm not a recruiter, but you're here, so let's spin it. Yes, I'll help you find a job, because that is part of the other end of the product where
I don't know. No, they're not going to pay you though. I like, unless they're going to pay you, I say no to that. Like, you're like, I'll find you a job and you give me 10% of it. But no, but let's be real. Like, you're in a business, like, and I guess what I was initially thinking is like you actually getting as a freelance recruiter within an organization that will pay you to bring people in. That's initially was my thinking.
Yeah, I've just been spinning those people into intros with other recruiters. Hey, like I've kind of been using that as a spin into introducing myself, and I've got people reaching out. I need your advice. How would you do this? Oh, and by the way, I have this amazing service that you probably could benefit from. So I've been trying to.
Are you charging for referrals? Because just so you know, people get paid for that as well.
Oh yeah, I used to spend like $80,000 a month on referrals at my old job, and it's absurd how much you can get paid for referrals. But currently, no, I'm out here doing the kindness of my heart in hopes that they will, like buy in here and show my value essentially. So I do try to spin those people that think that I'm a recruiter. But it's not totally off the table to add in that. I think what I'm trying to do is narrow the service down, because this service itself started off with 50,000 ideas, kind of like Makena was talking about, like narrowing it down to 1 to 2 services. And honestly, I have it framed right now where it's like a pre-hire service and a post-hire service. And then after this discussion, I'm kind of wondering, is it just a candidate experience that maybe simplifies it further that I should be pushing versus, on the pre-hire side, this is what I do. And post-hire, this is what I do. No, and maybe it's just the candidate, the full experience is maybe a simpler offering, because I feel like that's come up a lot, Makena, with what you're saying is simplify your marketing to be really direct with what's going on.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you can always break it apart, right? If you add that like some sort of caveat in there, and someone says, you know what, I really only want support in this particular part where we've been having issues in our organization. You're like, okay, great. Here's the price.
Deal.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
We are getting towards the end, so I do want to make sure that we address potentially, because I feel like, I mean, Makena, I want to start with you. I feel like there's probably something you're like, I feel like this needs to be said. And is there anything that you feel like needs to be said for, whether it be Tori or another person kind of in this earlier stage of kind of like figuring out like just general market fit and the scalability of their organization?
Yeah. I would say the biggest recommendation I have is be data driven. Track everything. Track how many outreaches you've done. Track the reason that you lost each deal if you can find that out. Track, how far you got. Track the feedback on track as much as you possibly can. It doesn't have to be formal. You can just throw in a spreadsheet or use a simple CRM, but that is how you're going to make decisions, and it's also how you're going to keep yourself sane in those first couple of months and years where you're going to get a lot of no's. So having the data to make the decision, I think, is the one thing I most often see missing, and I think could really change the game for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So, and Tori, let me ask you this then. Like, I guess I want to kind of think about I mean, we've talked about a lot, and unfortunately, I'm sorry that you had like some technical difficulties. I feel like you'll catch some of the conversation on like the recording. I'll make sure to edit it. What I like to think of, was it end of October, about goals for 2026. If you were to say that you had a goal right now from I don't know, let's even a revenue standpoint, what's that number? What is your, what would you like to aspire to within 2026? And the only reason I kind of want to push for that is that was it that 1% rule? It's every day you can do certain things to once you know your goal, we can potentially back into that as well.
Yeah, I think my biggest goal right now is to get 3 corporate clients that have me on almost on a retainer. I'm not a lawyer. That sounds like a lawyery word, but
I think this is very relevant for your space, retainer.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, a retainer to get through hiring seasons, because there are seasons for different industries. Healthcare is very seasonal in how they hire. Finance, which we haven't really talked about much today, but they're very seasonal in when they hire and all of that. So that's my goal, is 3 corporate clients that I'm on retainer with in the next year. So yeah, I'm excited. I think I can do it. It's just I'm gonna grind, obviously.
Well, let's back I mean, we have a couple more minutes, so let's back into it this way. So the goal is 3 clients, 3 recurring revenue clients and everything. Makena, what would that look like to actually achieve for 2026 when you back out from a sales funnel or planning stand? What November 1, what does that look like? How do we back into those 3?
Yeah, totally. So I would think about, I don't know the numbers, but I would put this in a spreadsheet, Tori. It'll take you not that long, but okay, so if you need, put a field for how many clients you need in the spreadsheet, right? And then what is the conversion rate for people who you get on a call? To me, that's the biggest milestone. Do you get them on a call?
Mm-hmm.
That is okay, you kind of have them on the hook a little bit at least. So, for us, for example, our conversion rate is somewhere in the 25 to 30% of people that we get on the call. So, you may not have perfect data on that yet because you're newer, but I would say thinking back to your previous experience doing this, looking at your current experience, take your best guess and maybe be a little conservative just to be,
right,
give yourself some buffer. So that would be the next thing to look at. So say that you want, let's just say 1 client, right? If 1 out of 10 clients that you get on a call converts, so you need to do 10 calls per client. So if you want to get 5 clients, it's 50 calls and so on, right? And then you do 1 more level after that. So, okay, how many touches, emails, calls, networking events, how many basically eyeballs do you need to get in front of in order to get those 10 calls? So what is your conversion onto the call? And that is the last piece. So say 1 in 500, I'm just using round numbers for easy.
It's a good big number though. It shows you literally what your market is. Absolutely.
Totally. So if you need to get 1 client, you need 10 calls, and then to get a call, you need 500 touches. So you need 10 times 500 or 5,000 touches to get a client. So then you can be all right. I mean, I literally have this laid out for myself. Okay, we're doing 1,500 cold emails through Instantly a day. I'm going to 5 events a month, and each of those events has 100 people. I'm literally adding those numbers up to figure out how many clients you need. So if you set a goal, okay, I want to get 1 new client a month, you can basically map out literally how you spend your sales and marketing time for that month. And then you'll also get more data so you can refine those numbers, right, as you go. But yeah, that's what I would do if I were you. I would literally map it out and then make a plan of how am I going to get in front of that many eyeballs on different platforms.
Yeah, I love that.
That's very clear.
Yeah, and it does take, going back to the beginning of the conversation, it kind of takes that personal edge off of the no's. You know, in recruiting, I hear no a lot, and it did nothing to me. I was like, okie dokie, you know, but when it's your own personal thing, you know, taking that edge off, protecting the headspace and the mind game that sales is, I think it, adding data into it makes it scientific, methodical, less personal. So I really like that approach. You know, those two things kind of marry in multiple ways.
And if I can project manage this a little bit, because somebody else did this for me recently, they're like, well, we need a date. Okay, so it sounds like maybe, Tori, that you need to update maybe some of your marketing collateral to do a little bit more of this outreach. So like, I don't know. What do you think? November 1st, can we like, have some updated like marketing collateral, like a one sheet with your rates and a one sheet with your offering. Like literally that's it. Like don't
Yeah.
not like a huge like what do you think? Do you think that's doable? And then you can
Oh,
kind of like
it's
go into the instantly part of it.
absolutely. Yes, I think so. Especially, well, no, not I think. Yes. I just had a bunch of this rebranding stuff. I've learned some of my strengths, and design and aesthetic they're not one of them. That's a delegated task for me. And so I've got that piece now where I have the basis, and now the things like the data and the relevant stuff can be added to it, because the design portion was super daunting to me because I'm not an artist. I'm a business person.
I love Canva personally. It's like, oh, there's a template. Great, let's use that. Here's
I
the new
need
colors.
to be banned from Canva. I need to somebody lock me out of my account.
That's
Lock me
hilarious.
out.
I love it. You guys, we are at time. So Tori, do you want to give a little pitch, and then I'll go into Makena, and then I'm gonna wrap us up. And then you guys stay on though, because I need to make sure that the video uploads.
Yeah, absolutely. My pitch is come follow along. We have a beautiful, bright, shiny new website that launched on Tuesday. It's just thewelcomestandard.com. And on there, you will be prompted to sign up for my newsletter. You should do it. It's fun. And if you ever want to visit St. Pete or our local here, it's all about local insights. And then I do a lot of industry insights around recruiting, what's going on with hiring right now, because I love that piece of it as well. So come get in touch there.
Go and please, Tori, if you're not posting on LinkedIn, I'm gonna to fully like recommend that.
Oh,
Like post more.
yes. Yeah. We're on LinkedIn. I have a lot more followers on LinkedIn than Instagram, and that is the goal. My Instagram is where I like test it quick, and then I'm like, all right, it's ready for LinkedIn, where my people are. So
Makena?
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to always chat with any small or medium-sized businesses. You can find us at the boutique COO, so the full name, on Instagram, and also theboutiquecoo.com. And you're welcome to reach out with any small or medium-sized business questions.
Thank you both. And everybody that's still listening, in the next 30 minutes, we'll have another conversation. This one's actually going to be scaling fast. So I hope you'll join us. You can go check out the Ideas Citizen company page, or just come find me, and it'll kind of just start popping up in the next 30 minutes. Thank you both so much. I will be in touch. And thanks everybody for listening. You guys hold on.
thank you. Okay.